grits, 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 grits. Okay. Bruce Wayne meets Clark Kent. I love it. I love bringing people together. How are we?
Lex.
Hi, hello, Lex. It is a pleasure. Ow! Wow, that is a good grip. You should not pick a fight with this person.
There's been a lot of talk lately about that role, Lex Luthor in Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice. But there's also been plenty of talk about the guy behind it, Jesse Eisenberg, and not just because of his acting, or because of that movie. The longtime playwright recently published his first book, a collection of short stories called Bream Gives Me Hiccups, which far and away exceeds the usual expectations that stem from the sentence, a famous actor tries his hand at... ... It's no dog star, that's for sure. And after a book signing at Carmichael's here in Louisville, Jesse and I had a chance to sit down and talk for a few about exactly why he needs to write. And it genuinely does seem like a need. And how it feels when a role takes over your life. Not just time-wise, but psychologically. So, how old were you when you became a playwright? Because I know you've been doing that for a long time.
Oh, yeah. And you put finger quotes around it, which you can't.
Well, no, but I mean,
hear.
If you're doing that.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying for the audience, for the listening audience, there was finger quotes. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Well, I started writing like movie scripts when I was young, like 16, 17, and then I had some option when I was like 18, 19, and then I really started to not like it because, just because films are so expensive, that requires a lot of people working on them, and everybody asked for kind of changes that seemed to be like lateral moves in the scripts, and it was frustrating and stifling, so I started doing playwriting, and then the whole world opened up for me because I really feel like that's where I can excel as a writer and where I can fully express myself.
So how old were you when you decided I don't want to do movies anymore, or don't want to write movies?
Yeah, like 24, because this writer Bob Odenkirk, who's also an actor, he read one of my movie scripts, and I knew him from something, and he said it was funny, but I don't know why you're writing this impersonal stuff. You should write something. You're a sensitive guy. Write something personal. So I started writing plays, and it changed everything for me. I really owe him a lot.
It's interesting. I didn't know that about Bob Owen, because he's given, like, I've talked to a few people that he's actually given like similar career-changing advice to, and I can't remember who offhand.
You know why? Because he has no filter. He's
That's
a blunt
true.
guy. He's super smart, and he's not like comfortable with the kind of, what we would think of, I guess, just as like the Hollywood social, schmoozing or something. So he has no filter. He's blunt and he's smart. So he's very helpful.
I mean, was that an instantaneous thing where you're like, that's exactly what I should do?
No. Actually, that was when I was like, I think when I was 21, he told me that, and then like when I was like 22, 23, a year or two later, that's when I realized, I should write plays. That's where, writers who don't want to, who really want to write personal things for actors, right?
Right, where you can get the thing that you wrote made, and it still resembles
precisely
the thing that you wrote.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
So how did you make the leap from being a playwright to deciding to do the book and becoming a more formal author?
Well, then I started reading McSweeney's. Somebody had sent me a story from McSweeney's, which is Dave Eggers' publishing house, which also has this online component, and I thought it was great, and they do like kind of 1,000-word or less kind of humor stories daily. And then I found the New Yorker magazine, and I really loved that format, which is like a 1,000-word kind of humor concept story. So I started writing that, and then from there I started writing kind of longer form pieces, which now appear in the book.
See, that's usually people go the opposite direction. They want to be authors and write books, then they realize they can't write so much, and then and then they write longer essays, and then realize maybe that doesn't work, and then they're publishing 1,000-word pieces.
Oh, I see. Yes, no,
you worked your way up instead of down.
Yes, exactly. I imagine. Yes, by the time I'll write, a kind of a long tome. By the time I'm older.
Do you hope to actually do that?
Yes, I mean, the strange part about my job is that I am either very busy acting in a movie or where you're working 14 hours a day, it can be a potentially grueling schedule, or I'm totally unemployed and have nothing to do. So I am working with a domestic violence shelter in Indiana this week because I have a personal connection to it in southern Indiana, in Bloomington, Middle Way House. But otherwise, I do nothing.
I mean, I guess, do you just need to keep moving then? Because I know some actors appreciate the time away and like take make it a point to not do anything.
No, I get miserable if I'm not doing anything. When you read about actors doing drugs or alcohol or all, self-destructive behavior, I can understand why that happens. You have a lot of time off. You have bright people who are hardworking, ambitious people, and there's just, it's the nature of the job that you end up having a lot of months off.
And I guess, too, there's also, and this is the funny thing, like, people assume that there's some sort of difference between comedic acting and dramatic acting, and, spending plenty of time as a playwright and, on the stage, like, there's not necessarily that difference.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. Some of the funniest scenes are people taking their situation very seriously, and the context around them is funny. That's how I like to think of comedy, as, you take the situation very seriously, and if the context around you is funny, then the scene will ultimately be funny, as opposed to an actor kind of trying to, kind of work, from the outside in, and, kind of work backwards and try to think of what would be funniest and try to do that. It just doesn't seem as effective.
Yeah, and I guess my point is, like, when you do that, you're still tapping into some maybe pretty heavy emotions.
Yes, I mean, the most dramatic movies I've been in, for me, have been comedies. Like a movie called The Double was it's a funny movie, but to me it was like tore me apart to do. But emotionally drained.
Do you really think she's looking at me?
Yeah.
All right, now lick your lips.
Yeah.
What? Show the tongue, but be careful not to look like a lizard. Go.
I attract so many weirdos.
Yeah, it's just the nature of, I guess, how one actor works versus another.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I guess that's what it is. Like, when you're tapping into that stuff, I can totally see what you said. Because I never really thought about it so much as, you get into these things that maybe aren't the most positive headspace. Oh, and then you don't have anything to do for 6 months.
Oh, yes, that's also jarring. Yes, because you're expending so much, not only physical energy, but also emotional energy, and surrounded by a lot of people, because movies are usually made by a lot of people, and then really on your own. But I think it's the nature of everybody who works on movies, is that you're part of this strange team and family for a few months, usually in a remote, usually in a location that's not where everybody lives, and then it ends, and it's this kind of strange thing, and then you go on to the next one, and it's like a kind of strange lifestyle.
And so when you were experiencing that, did writing just become a natural outcropping of having that time, or did you say at some point, like, I need to be writing when I'm not doing this?
Yes, that's a good question, and it was a little bit of both. I realized that it's a good way to stay busy, because, acting is kind of like playing the drums. You can do it on your own, but it's not really effective. You need a band, or you need to be in a movie, you need to be in a play. Whereas writing is like playing the guitar. You can kind of do it on your own, and it's just as effective, and it can be just as fulfilling.
I mean, do you prefer one over the other?
No, I mean, I like having variety in my life. I seem to get kind of not bored, but when I'm doing something I kind of want to be doing its opposite. So when I'm doing like a kind of big movie where there's not much dialogue, I feel occasionally a little stifled, and so you go home and write something very personal, something obscure, something that feels transgressive or unusual, because you spent the day kind of running around in front of a green wall.
I guess that's probably even more present after your recent cinematic travails.
Well, in Batman, my character is not, and that's the most interesting character I could play. So that wasn't exactly what I was thinking of. Like, because in that movie, my character is it's a really emotional, interesting character. So that's really draining. But then after that, I did a movie which was a sequel. It's called Now You See Me 2, sequel to Now You See Me. And that movie, my character's kind of confident and he likes himself. And so by the end of the day, I still feel this need to kind of like have an emotional catharsis, because the character seemed pretty he was self-satisfied. So I would go home and write something painful.
I mean, you couldn't relate to being cool with yourself? Is that what it amounts to?
No, it feels very strange, to be doing a creative thing and also have confidence, because it seems like creative things should come out of pain, because why else would they exist? No one's asking you to write a book or act in a thing, so it seems like, well, they're coming from self-expression. And if it's not indulgent and, narcissistic, then it can be interesting and helpful.
I never really thought about it like that. I guess it's just odd because, yeah, if you're coming at it from that perspective, having to exude confidence in a way in which you normally try to eschew confidence.
Yes, exactly. It's very strange. It's very strange. But the strangest part about it was I felt really good about those movies. We did two of them. I always felt like, I did a great job in them. But I realized I was just projecting my character's feelings about himself onto my own acting job.
Let me warn you. I want you to follow. Because no matter what you think you might know, we will always be 1 step, 3 steps, 7 steps ahead of you. And just when you think you're catching up, that's when we'll be right behind you. And at no time will you be anywhere other than exactly where I want you to be. So come close. Get all over me, because the closer you think you are, the less you'll actually see.
So my character would feel really confident during the scenes, and then I'd walk away from the scenes thinking, that went fantastic. Whereas conversely, I was acting in a movie where I was probably doing a good job, but because my character was miserable, I thought I wasn't.
I never really thought of the character, like...
It taking over the experience. Yes, it's strange. I think that happens to a lot of actors. Like, you hear stories of great actors doing great roles, and then you hear the stories, oh, they were miserable during it, or they thought they were doing a terrible job.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Like, I guess part of it, too, is, like, being here, I have plenty of folks that are, stage actor friends and folks that come into town often at actors. And maybe it's just the people I know, but it seems like acting in a movie is very different than acting in a stage production in that sense. Like, it doesn't maybe necessarily take over.
What, in a movie?
In a play.
It's been strange. I just finished my third play in New York, and when I'm in a play, you really try to have a life outside, because you think, well, I'm not busy until 7 o'clock at night, so I should try to do something else. But at least for me, it became really difficult. My character that I was just playing was a really troubled guy, and I felt it to be very difficult to go to a museum or do things that normal people do to enjoy themselves during the day when their job is at night. I just couldn't focus on it. But other people are able to, especially if you're in Cats for 13 years and you're playing a cat, so you probably can find some time to go to the museum. It's probably not killing you.
Right, and people also aren't going to mug you when you're in the museum because they don't go, oh, there's Rum Tum Tum.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Not a lot. Well, very good reference. How do you know that?
I'm a fan.
Really?
Well, maybe not of
the
of
touring
that
company passed through Ohio.
That actually did happen. Yeah.
Really?
In high school, I was. I look like a burly big guy, but I was.
But you're a musical theater fan.
Yeah.
I see.
And so
you can play both sides.
It's
and you have a Reds hat on, which is confusing because it's black.
Well, that is. Most people think it's a Cubs hat. You got that though.
No,
it's
Reds.
Mostly because I don't have much hair.
I see. So you have the Reds hat.
But
you have a lot of hair elsewhere.
Right. Well, normally I'm lazy and it gets long, and then it looks bad.
Interesting.
Right now it's okay.
It looks cropped and
but
nice.
out of habit, I always
got it.
So. But
you end up becoming a fan of a team that you wouldn't necessarily be as excited about.
I have a large head. This
Got
fit.
It. Oh, I see. Very interesting. So you couldn't name all the players.
No. But so at what point then does because I know you said that you need to write sort of to fill your time, but at what point does the writing become actually rewarding? Because I know some writers are not happy with the act of writing until it's done.
Oh, yes, I've heard that. No, I really like it because everything I've written has been, well, I'm not like a career writer. I don't have deadlines. No one's really asking me to do it. So everything I write is really for my own sake. I really enjoy doing it. It's coming from a kind of pure place of needing to tell a certain story or needing to express myself through that medium. And so I'm enjoying it while it's happening because it's like a kind of a cathartic experience. I think if I had deadlines or if I was doing more academic writing like I did in college, I think I would probably not like the process and like the result. So
what kind of academic writing were you doing in college?
Well, I studied anthropology, sociology, so used a lot of Yanomami reports.
So basically the simultaneously most interesting and least interesting thing that you could possibly be.
That's a perfect description of anthropological writing, is the most interesting and least interesting writing.
And it's an odd thing to be simultaneously, but not one and then the other.
Yes.
But one and the other at the same time.
That's actually a really good description of the discipline.
So, I guess it's just an interesting thing to think about, the way you work, because you do seem to always, based on everything I've seen from you in the past and even this conversation, it seems like you're a guy who's always just like full steam ahead. And yeah. I can relate to that, but does that does that take a toll? Yes,
absolutely. And not only does it take a toll, but it can feel very lonely when it feels like there's no station to pull the train into. If you wake up and you don't have anything on the agenda, it can be alarming if you're somebody who likes to be busy. I know other. I have friends. I know other people in my profession who don't seem to be as bothered by that and can live a kind of comfortable life between jobs. But no, I find it to be difficult.
And that's right about the time they started kicking everybody out of the bookstore, so Jesse and I just went ahead and jumped into a guest DJ set. 3 songs, 1 band.
My favorite band is Ween. They broke up last year, got back together. They broke up 2 years ago, got back together temporarily now for an upcoming show, I think. My favorite song of theirs is called Chocolate Town. It's a beautiful song.
I couldn't taste the taste that I was tasting. I couldn't hear the waste that I was making.
was another song of theirs that's beautiful? Oh, they have this other beautiful instrumental called "A Tear for Eddie," and that's a beautiful song as well. The first song I ever heard from Ween was Spinal Meningitis, Got Me Down, from Chocolate and Cheese. It's a very strange song. My mother would not let me play it in the house. If you hear it, you'll realize why I was not allowed to play it in the house.
Why you wanna see my spine, mommy? Why you wanna see my spine? It's gonna hurt again, mommy. Much worse than last time. Am I gonna see God, mommy? Am I gonna die? It really hurts, mommy. Am I gonna die?
Jesse, man, thanks for doing
Thanks,
this. I
Sean.
appreciate it.